G'day folks, this is the second in my series of my top 30 Swedish death metal albums. This is the top 15. G'day folks, Jeff here, welcome back to the channel. Today we're doing our top 15 out of my top 30 Swedish death metal albums. Last video was the second half, and yeah, there's some corkers in there, but yeah, there's some absolute bloody classics in this one, that's for sure. I've decided against trying to, cover the wide gamut of styles of Swedish death metal. It's just my favourites. What the hell? So yeah, it's not that much newer stuff in here, but yeah, what the hell? It has actually been fun compiling these lists and sort of listening to some other albums of these bands that I don't really listen to much, just to make sure that my choices were what I really wanted, and some of them a bit iffy, you could say. It has also been enjoyable just making sure that the bands that I didn't think I liked, that I really don't like, but yeah, some of them I do. So I'm debating I may do another follow-up video to this of Swedish death metal bands I discovered while pretending that I hate them, but yeah. But anyway, let's get into it. Number 15 is Godmaab with the Winterlong. This came out in 1993. These guys are from Valberg, which is an area I hadn't heard of before. So, but yeah, this is another of the bands with only one album. But yeah, what a bloody album! It's Perfect Sunlight Studios Thomas Skogsberg sound, just beautiful, crunchy nastiness. It's pretty straightforward sort of Swedish death metal with, it's got some good sort of atmospheric doom bits and a bit of keyboards here and there in the usual manner of just minorly used. Slow sections on this are particularly powerful, especially the somewhat entombedy sounding solo on, Spawn of Flesh. But yeah, the vocals on this are massive, raw, just really forceful and throaty, sort of powerful one, not sort of gurgly, but just in your face. The vocalist went under Maud Brand, who I must admit I haven't really checked out much, so I'll have to give them a go. Lead guitarist Jonas was in Abhoth and Autumno in the early days, plus At the Gates, but yeah, he's also the main guy from Bombs or Hades. That was a killer band that I think only split a couple of years ago. It's a bit of a shame, but they were pretty bloody killer. He's got some really nice leads on this, and he likes his wah pedal, let's just put it that way. This came out in 1991, but it wasn't released until 93, which I think maybe didn't really help. I mean, it came out on Mangled Beyond Recognition Records that I don't think had quite the widest distribution. So yeah, it's a real shame. It's a shame a more major didn't pick them up, although they had somewhat of a distribution, because as I think I've shown this before, this is a Pantalgia compilation that also came out on MBR Records. I got this in Canberra at Belconnen Mall. So, and yeah, it has the first song on that is the song "Ashes of Morning Life" by Godmaab, and yeah, it's got some classic bloody stuff on here: Crematory, Pandemonium, Therion, far out, Disembowelment, of course. That's the main reason I bought it, of course. But yeah, everything rules on this. Rotrevor, Cadaver, bloody hell. So yeah, I already knew what's it called, Ashes of Morning Life. It's it's a bit of a groovy mid-paced crusher, and great way to start that compilation. There's a few other, there's instrumentals on here, which is kind of weird. The whole album's only 28 minutes long, which is pretty brief, I gotta say. Yeah, Teardrops is a doomy sort of instrumental that's quite the ripper, and Lamentations is just a sort of nice acoustic piece. But yeah, I think Lost is one of my favourites on here. It's just got some hectic drumming and some few nice sort of doom riffs. This was originally reissued. I don't have an original of this at all. This is originally reissued by Relapse in 2002-ish, somewhere around there. And this one has arrived in the mail today, no shit. This is the Hammerheart reissue from this year, I think. Which is kind of good, actually. There's a bonus track on this, Life's Verge, which isn't on the Relapse one. It's an old, I don't know, I don't think they'd recorded it before. It's an old song from 1990 that they recorded in 2013 for some reason, just I assume for one of these reissues on Hammerheart. So yeah, that was a very nice bonus I didn't realise existed until a couple of weeks ago, so very happy with that. But yeah, on the Relapse one, they slapped on the end. Before they became Godmaab, they were called Macabre End, and they released one EP, Consumed by Darkness, which is 3 songs, one of which is re-recorded on the Winterlong album. And yeah, it's a bit heavier, I'd say. The vocals are a bit deeper, but yeah, it's just as effective. Just killer atmospheric leads. Yeah, you just really cannot go wrong with these guys. I think it's Consumed by Darkness and Cease to Be are the 2 other songs from the EP. Just friggin' rippers. They did reform from 2013 to about 2022, but no new recordings. There is like a live release that came out on that bloody Heavy Metal Superstar label from Japan that puts out 80 presses. So I don't like my chances of getting that. It's just a live gig from 91, I think. I was lucky, and for once I won't be bragging too much about all these bands, having seen them. I've seen a few of them, but I did see these guys at MDF 2014, and it friggin' rolled. It was bloody awesome. Very happy with that. So yeah, just pretty straight Swedish death metal, but you cannot go wrong at all with this album. Friggin' ripper.
I've been saving my medication, and nobody seems to give a fuck.
Number 14 is Murder Squad with Ravenous Murderous. This came out in 2003. These guys are from Stockholm. Yeah, this is another sort of super group, you could say. This is Maddie and Richard from Dismember, Uffe from Entombed, and Peter Starwin from Entombed, Regurgitate, Unanimated, Merciless, etc., etc. Bloody good drummer. This is essentially their tribute to Autopsy and Abscess and just Swedish death metal in general. Originally they were a cover band called Bonesaw, I believe, and just did Autopsy covers and other fun stuff, just muck around. But yeah, then they decided to record a couple of albums. Yeah, this is their first album, Unsane, Insane and Mentally Deranged, which is just as bloody good really, but this one probably wins because it's got Chris Reifert from Autopsy guesting on it on a batch of songs. So yeah, there's no way I'm not going to pick that. And I mean, them doing Autopsy is really not much of a stretch at all, because Autopsy was obviously a huge influence on, Dickie Anderson and all the gang from Dismember and Entombed and probably most of the Swedish death metal bands. And I mean, on this, I think it's the song Deprivation. I mean, it's got an exact copy of the Destined to Fester riffs. Yeah, they're fans. And Matty really does his best Reifert vocal impersonation as well. But yeah, this one has Chris guesting on guitar, drums, and vocals. Bloke's a talented chap. I think there are also guest vocals by Jorgen Sandstrom from Grave and Entombed, Roger from Merciless, and Orvar from Nirvana 2002 and briefly Entombed. Yeah, I suspect this was a very fun time when they recorded this. I'm guessing Chris actually went over to Sweden to do it all. Yeah, the production on this is a bit clearer than the first album, but it's still just filthy, horrible death metal. And as soon as Chris starts singing on, I think it's Disturbing the Freaks, his vocals are unmistakable. But I mean, don't get me wrong, with or without Chris Reifert, these guys still friggin' rip. It's a bloody awesome album. I mean, it's Autopsy Worship, of course I'm going to love it. Yeah, one of the highlights really is the trade-offs between Maddie and Chris when they're singing. Like, there's a few songs where they sing one after the other, and it's just gold. And Chris does a heap of solos on here as well, and drums on a couple. So it is, I mean, it's got spunk sluts, just like pure Abscess sort of worship, like the punky death metal-y sort of style. I think it's Born in Sewage, Bred in Bile, has Chris on sort of lead vocals, and it does a very strange lead, like solo in it as well. But yeah, I mean, and even though it is an Autopsy Worship thing, there's still a lot of Entombed and Dismember in it, because hey, it's the main guys writing for them as well. So, and I mean, Rising from the Ashes is just pure Swedeath brutality. It's lovely stuff. And yeah, I really like the drumming as well from Peter Starwind. He's always an energetic sort of drummer, and he does a bloody fine job on here. So they did actually release one other EP, which I don't think even has a name. It's just 2 covers of Autopsy. I don't think Chris is even on this, though. It's got like Human Genocide, like one of their old demo tracks, and Blackness Within, which unfortunately doesn't have the ridiculously pitch-shifted sort of style vocals, but comes with a patch no less. So yeah, as I said, it must have been a very fun, messy session. Oh. There's a few other guests as well, so I'm sure it would have been a drop-in central for all their mates just going, oh my god, Autopsy, Chris is here. Really cool cover art as well by Timo Kotola, rest in peace, who was a pretty legendary Finnish artist. He did, the Kamos covers and Dead Congregation and Crypts and both these ones. So yeah, all in all, friggin' awesome. I mean, nothing original in the slightest, but who gives a crap? It was beautiful stuff. Number 13 is Edge of Sanity with Purgatory Afterglow. This came out in 1994. These blokes are from Finspång. It was a real toss-up between this and Crimson, which is the album that came after that, which is the one-song album, that one song that goes for 40 minutes. Was tricky because, I do love both of them. And initially I was going with Crimson because his clean vocals are a bit smoother on that, but it's almost like a sort of sane version of Pandemonium, but when you break it down, it's about half an album repeated again. I don't know. I know they reuse the themes throughout it, but they just reuse whole bits. So yeah, I decided Purgatory as a whole I enjoy more, which is kind of weird because I think Purgatory Afterglow was originally, all the songs were supposed to be 2 EPs, like with different styles. One of which is just your standard Swedish Death Metal. The other one is a bit more sort of goth and hard rock sort of influenced as well. So yeah, there's a lot of variety on this album, that's for sure. It starts pretty heavy. Twilight's a killer opener, and then the next song of Darksome Origin is, it's a ripper. Friggin' fast and furious as hell. It's a screen vocals, dirgy sort of end bit. But then after that, then you get Blood Coloured, which is, it starts the clean sort of stuff. But it's a good sort of combination. I really like that. I didn't have the lyrics originally, so whenever he says blood coloured, I used to think he was saying The Garden for some reason. I don't know. But yeah, it's got the sort of rock and roll aspect to it. But then, like the growly bits and the riffs are killer. And then there's like a D-beat in tune sort of bit in there as well. So there's pretty varied sort of stuff. Elegy's another sort of heavy groover. But yeah, Black Tears is like, that's one of the gothy sort of bits. And it's just got the cheesiest melody that I still kind of hate a bit, but I really kind of enjoy it as well. It's a bit stupid, but and Swano's voice on this sounds friggin' awesome. Velvet Dreams is another corker on this with really good chorus, but yeah, this album nearly lost for the last song, Song of Sirens, which is, they let one of the guitarists sing it instead of Dan, and it sounds like kind of Chaos AD by Sepultura, which I like as a Sepultura album, not as a Edge of Sanity song, that's for sure. It's like just him yelling over the top of it and odd style. So that was a more experimental track that, is well worth skipping, that's for sure. And it's interesting, this is always referred to as like Dan's band, but Dredd, one of the guitarists, wrote, co-wrote half of it at least. So I think he deserves a bit of credit, I reckon. But yeah, I really do enjoy Crimson a lot, and Crimson 2 as well. I've got to give props to the song Passage of Time 1, which is like, I don't know, it's about a quarter of the way through it. It's just perfect transition from this randomly weird growl bit into just the most stomping, moshy riff. Just fast double bass, it's beautiful. Just listen to that song, you'll know exactly what I mean. But yeah, it's weird with this band though. I really didn't start getting into them until this album came out, which is like their fourth album. I still don't actually even own the ones prior to that. I really do need to track down versions of those. I believe they've just been reissued with like remastered versions, but also remixed versions. I think I saw Rogger mention it on his video that there's, like, if you get the CD, there's like 3 versions of the album on it for some reason. The original one, the remastered, and the remixed one as well. So you want to track those ones down just for the hell of it. So, but yeah, I really do like Orthodox, or Unorthodox, sorry, out of their earlier stuff. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the other ones. I don't know why the hell I didn't already have them. None of my mates must have had them. I was a huge Pandemonium fan, and some reason didn't track down Swedeath's other bands. So anyway, I'm glad I finally got around to this. Yeah, they had a not so great split where they kicked Dan out and had actually the Pandemonium singer for like an album, and then they split up, and then Dan reformed it and did Crimson 2. So yeah, I find this band weird. I don't know if they ever played live very much, maybe in the real early days, but I've never looked it up, but maybe I should. So I just don't remember ever seeing them on flyers and so on. But yeah, ripper bloody band. I mean, this one, it's not pure death metal, that's for sure. There is a lot of sort of goth rocky sort of stuff on it, or maybe not a lot, but there's a good amount of it at any rate. So might spoil the purists' fun a bit, but I love it. Number 12 is Desultory with Into Eternity. This one came out in 1993. These blokes are also from Stockholm. So yeah, this is not the heaviest or most intense of the Swedish death metal bands, but something about it sits just right for me. It's a really good combination of sort of groove, atmosphere, and heaviness as well. Although that said, it's a strangely nice sounding death metal. Like, normal person would probably think it just sounds horrible, but diehard death metal maniac, it really isn't as intense as some of the, or rusty sort of sounding as some of the other ones. I mean, this is a Sunlight Studios Skogsberg recording, but yeah, it doesn't sound anywhere near as rusty or nasty. This is their first album, so it's about sort of half and half of demo songs and newer songs. And the demo ones that are redone on here sound pretty friggin' nice, I gotta say. A bit better than the demos. One of the highlights really for me is the lead work. It's really melodic. He does such great mournful sort of leads. I think it's Depression is definitely the highlight on here for me. It's got a mournful lead and a nice sort of slow down before it kicks back in. The title track, Into Eternity, is a friggin' nice one as well. I mean, the guy's, he's no Malmsteen, but he's just got a really smooth, clean sort of style. It just really works very well. I think it's Forever Gone. It's got a nice sort of entombedy sounding lead bit in it, bit of Left-Hand Path sort of feel. But one thing I like about these guys is they don't try and out entombed or out dismember anyone. They're following their own path, which is quite a good thing. This one's just a repress from Flogger Records. I have an oldish CD version of it as well, but the second album, Bitterness, is pretty friggin' nice as well, but the shouty kind of vocals sort of ruin it for me a bit. It's kind of like Gregor from Paradise Lost playing on Wolverine Blues, so it's a little, they got the death and roll a slight amount to it. Originally, actually, I bought this is their third album, Swallow the Snake, which do not buy this. As you can see, I got it from Cash Converters for $8, which is probably $8 too much. It's, yeah, I'd heard I'd seen their name mentioned in zines or whatever, and I was like, oh yeah, Desultory, I'll check them out. Yeah, nope. After this, they sort of changed into after that album, they changed into a sort of stoner rock band, Zebulon, for a number of years. They have reformed as Desultory and have like 2 albums out. I've sort of given them a brief go, so I might have to actually track those down. Sadly, I don't think it has their really good lead guitarist Stefan, and doesn't look to have done anything else, which is a real shame. So, but yeah, this album, friggin' ripper. It's, as I said, not as nasty, but classy. Number 11 is Crematory with Denial. These blokes are from Stockholm. This is actually a compilation of a batch of their sort of EPs and demos. They didn't actually do an album. This is a pretty short-lived band from Stockholm. This is a nice reissue on Necroharmonic and Morbid Wrath. Thanks, Roy and Daryl, for this one. It's a bloody ripper, 2LP one. Yeah, it comes with reproduced flyers. Look at that old Unleashed logo. Gigs with Afflicted Convulsion, Dismember. Oh, I love it. It's always a sucker for that sort of stuff. So yeah, I first heard these guys on this Pantalgia compilation again with their song Mastication, which is off Wrath of the Unknown demo. So these guys are essentially grinding death metal, you could say. So friggin' heavy. So I mean, not quite the super heavy version of the old Moondark and Co. from the first video of this, but friggin' full on. It actually reminds me quite a bit of Aussie death metal legends Necrotomy. I don't know, it's just this sort of grind, brutal, lots of blasting element to it, but I mean, and don't get me wrong, it's not like brutal death metal, but it's very brutal and it's death metal, let's put it that way. So yeah, it's mostly fast paced, but when they go heavy, like on Requiem for the Dead, it's friggin' heavy. I only ever had this compilation. I don't have any of their original stuff. I think the EP Denial, which is from 1992, that came out on Mangled Beyond Recognition Records again, so this didn't really get much coverage, unfortunately. That one is pretty good. Like, it's the first 4 songs you get on this. It's a bit of a cleaner sort of sound, and they do whinge about it. It was recorded at Montezuma, which is where Bathory album was recorded, and some Therion maybe, or yeah, I think Therion. Yeah, so the Denial EP, I mean, the songs are killer, but the sound is not nasty enough for their sort of style. I think they tuned up a bit as well. So yeah, I mean, even I think it's Chunks of Flesh sounds like, you know, they borrowed a bit from Spiritual Healing, I think, so they're already heading in the wrong direction for death metal. Honestly, on this, my favourite are the 2 older demos, the Exordium and Wrath from the Unknown from 1990 and 1991. They're just, I mean, they're raw as hell, don't get me wrong. They're not perfect sound, but it's friggin' heavy. It's ridiculous sort of stuff. Just a bit nastier as well. Like, and this has their final demo from 92, Netherworlds of the Mind, which again is still pretty killer, but yeah, shows them improving at their instruments, and yeah, it's a bit nice sounding. Let's put it that way. So those 2 demos though, untouchable, friggin' heavy stuff. Obviously, yeah, Funebrar, I'm sorry. Yeah, big fans. They borrowed a few sections, that's for sure. I love listening to it. I'm just like, hey, I know that riff. Naughty. This actually has, I think the last song on this is their very first demo. This is the song Mortal Torment. Actually has Chris from Therion singing on it, and yeah, it's pretty thrashy, I've got to say. I mean, they, like a lot of these bands, they obviously probably grew up on thrash, so yeah, the influence dropped off pretty fast, but it's pretty noticeable on that one. So yeah, it's just a band I just love their heaviness and just the frantic brutality of it. It's not overly brutal, but it's, yeah, just the right level of brutal. Love it. Number 10, Unleashed, Where No Life Dwells, is from 1991, and yeah, these blokes are also from Stockholm. Honestly, I really didn't care much for these guys back in the day when they started. It just wasn't full on enough, just a bit simple and plodding, but yeah, it's really won me over as I get a bit more elderly, you could say. I used to always see the Before the Creation of Time clip on Rage, which is like a MTV sort of thing in Australia. I used to always see that clip and just go, freaking play Morbid Angel instead, or Carcass or something else. So, but yeah, their mid-paced galloping style, it's winning me over, let's just put it that way. So, and I mean, this album freaking rules. I stupidly haven't had this for a long time, as I said in my July collection update. I feel a bit stupid not having it for all these years. I think I blame it partly on this one. This is their 3rd album, Across the Open Sea, which I think I bought, you know, like 20 years ago or something or other, and it was just like, it's alright, not that great. But yeah, this album, freaking rules. Highlights are probably that Before the Creation of Time, which I never noticed had such a big build-up. Freaking ripper. What is it? For They Shall Be Slain, just groovy as hell. And The Laughter Died is doomy nastiness. Just, it sounds so tough when they go slow. And one thing I like about these guys is that it is markedly different. I mean, despite the fact that Johnny was in Nihilist just prior and got the boot, obviously, and then formed these guys, really doesn't sound that much at all like Nihilist or Entombed or Dismember or anything. Really, it's quite a different sort of style. And I mean, I think they purposely recorded not at Sunlight and recorded in Germany, I think. So I do like their second album as well, Shadows in the Deep. I really love the song The Immortals on that. But yeah, this album, I'm glad I finally got there. And as I showed off in one of my other collection update videos, the demos compilation. I reckon if I had those demos, or dubs of them or whatever, I think that would have probably sold me. I don't know. It was just because I didn't have the full album, and I don't know, didn't grab me. So I'm glad it finally did, because yeah, definitely worth its place. Number 9 is Afflicted with Prodigal Son. This came out in 1992 and also from Stockholm. Who would have guessed? This is weird, sort of varied, sort of progressive death metal. It's a very odd sort of style. Again, more Sunlight, Thomas Skogsberg production, but it does not sound like Left Hand Path, that's for bloody sure. I reckon it's quite the underrated gem of Swedish death metal. The vocalist is one of the highlights for me. It's just crazy. I mean, he's got a great deep sort of voice and quite understandable sort of growls and some damn fine crazed sort of screams as well. He kind of reminds me of Sylvian Horde from early Cataclysm days. But yeah, heaps of weird psychedelic bits, like on a Stray, kind of reminds me of Alchemist, which is always a great thing. I love all the... It's not quite as raw and intense as their demos, which thankfully I hadn't actually heard first. I heard this well before I ever heard the demos, so they sound kind of weird to me, if anything. I really like the strange Middle Eastern-y kind of bits that they have in this. As you might have gathered, I like slightly odd sort of death metal, so this certainly fits the bill, that's for sure. Plenty of bits in, like, I think it's In Years to Come. Just sounds like standard Swedish death metal, but then just gets odd. Yeah, that's the best way to describe it. There's just suddenly it's like whoa, okay, turns on a dime and it's just bizarre. Most songs were from their early demos, but I think it's Rising to the Sun's one of the newer ones. It's just weird wah pedal sections, and just the contrast between the heavier and the weirder sort of stuff just works perfectly. I've always loved this somewhat silly picture of them on the back, even though I'm pretty sure in the liner notes it says they hated it, but fits perfectly for me, I reckon. And as I think I probably mentioned last time I did this on one of my collection updates, they had a second album which I forced myself to try and listen to again recently, and it's like Manowar heavy metal sort of style, and not what I'm looking for really. Actually, when I saw General Surgery play with MGF, I think the band members were around or something, or maybe they were still setting up on stage, and I went up to one of them and said, "Oh, thanks for Prodigal Son," thinking it was Joachim Karlsson, who's in General Surgery as well, and it was the other bald guy, the old bass player, I think. So yeah, it's a bit awkward, but yeah, what the hell. But yeah, just weird Swedish death metal, just right up my alley. It's great stuff. Number 8 is Therion with Beyond Sanctorum. This is from 1992. This is their second album, and yeah, also from Stockholm. This is actually a really tough choice because I absolutely love their first album of Darkness as well, even though, despite the crap cover art. But yeah, it's really tough because of Darkness has got, it's the Sunlight Studios recording, so it sounds freaking killer. And this second one, Beyond Sanctorum, was recorded at Montezuma Studio, which I mentioned previously for Crematory, I think Edge of Sanity, and also recorded there in Bathory. So I think it's got a more distinct sort of sound, Beyond Sanctorum. It doesn't sound quite as Swedish sounding, that's for sure. Occasionally the drums get a little lost on it, which is a bit of a shame, but yeah, it's freaking killer. This is not the original by any means. The original one came out on Active Records, which is, I think, a Music for Nations sub-label. For some reason, it was always hard to find. I did finally pick up this reissue version that with the freaking boring cover, which thankfully has extra demos. So I mean, I had it on tape for donkey's years, and this is a recent reissue that put that out. Hammerheart put that out. I got from the band, hence the signed by Chris, which was nice of him to spoil the cover art. But anyway, I do prefer this album. It's a bit more complex and kind of darker than Of Darkness. Of Darkness is pretty simple. It is a lot of demo tracks. I mean, I miss the sort of chaotic intensity of what is it, The Return, and A Suburb from Hell as well as another ripper on the first album. I mean, it's still a freaking awesome album, don't get me wrong, but I don't know, this is, Beyond Sanctorum's a little classier, I think. Still got the great solos from Peter. It's pretty much the same lineup other than the bass player who left. But yeah, it's the start of their classier sort of style, that's for sure. Symphony of the Dead definitely has a hint of the later style with, you know, like clean male and female kind of vocals and a slower sort of style until then the blasts and growls do kick in at the end. But yeah, it's my favourite songs in here are probably Future Consciousness, Cthulhu. I really wish the Paths, the last song, was a bit longer. It's just like a short, you know, add-on, and The Way is like a friggin' epic, you know, 8-minute or friggin' long sort of song. And yeah, this is the album after this doesn't grab me anywhere near as much, and I actually do prefer their Lemuria sort of serious beat era and Secrets of the Ruins. I don't know, they'd fully embrace their, you know, I wouldn't even call it gothic metal, really. It's symphonic metal. That's probably the better way of putting it. And, I mean, he's always worshipped Celtic Frost, and, yeah, that era was his Into the Pandemonium, I think, which is an amazing album. So, yeah, it's that perfect mix of classical meets metal, but this is his, Into the Pandemonium, pretty much. So, and I've always loved that nice Necrolord cover art. Yeah, I'm glad I finally got a record version of it, even if it's not an original. I did see these guys live. I wonder how long ago that was, maybe 6 or 7 years ago or so. And I was peeved because it was sort of promoted as their, you know, playing all their eras. I mean, it didn't say they're going to play death metal songs, but as far back as they went was Delhi, which is like their 5th album. It's a bit rude, I reckon, but anyway. They were still friggin' killer, don't get me wrong. It was a great time, but yeah, I do have a DVD of them somewhere which has got a lot of old footage of this era, and to see that live would have been amazing because, yeah, just classy death metal, great stuff.
I am the Almighty, the one we wish to ride. I'm the winged shadow, and from the night.
Number 7 is Dissection with The Somber Lane. This is their first album from 1993. This guy's originally from Stromstad, but moved to Stockholm after a time. As you might have guessed, melodic death metal's really not my favourite. It's fairly obviously missing from a lot of this list. But yeah, to me this is the melodic Swedish death metal album by bar none. It was actually a really tough choice between that and the second album, Storm of the Light's Bane, which, yeah, it's legendary for a reason. I went with The Somber Lane because it's a bit more death metal, a bit less black than that Storm is. It was a friggin' tough choice though, because both albums are amazing and both sound amazing as well. The sound is incredible. This is a Dan Swano Unisound recording, both of them is, and he did a stellar, I reckon it's one of his best productions, I'd say. Amazing drum sound, just everything just sounds spot on. As with a lot of first albums, there's lots of demo tracks. I think the first half is new songs and the second half is demo ones that sound markedly smoother and sort of better than the demos, that's for sure. For me, the first 2 tracks are the winners. Black Horizons is like 8-minute epic. It's even got like a crazy sort of high scream in it, which I think is what Dan Swano's credited for on vocals. But yeah, the Somber Lane's another corker. It's just moody middle section, just stellar riffs and melodies, just black as hell ending. It's untouchable, this sort of work. And the drumming is another of the highlights for me. It's just interesting and just smooth as hell. Really good sort of measured use of double bass. Other songs on here that, I mean, every song's a friggin' corker, but what is it? Into the Cold Winds of Nowhere. Yeah, it's just a ripper, but I never really liked the start of the solo. It's the same as they do on the demo. It's like, yeah. That's one of the few not so great bits. The other not so great bit is Mistress of the Bleeding Sorrow. It's just got like a dance wano, like Astro Boy keyboard solo on it for no reason at all. It just kind of spoils the mood a bit. But yeah, everything else on this is just ridiculous. And I can't believe how young they were when they did this. Like John, the main guy, like the singer and guitarist, he was 17 when they recorded this. The oldest member was like 20, and it's better than a shit ton of albums that come out these days from much older folks, that's for sure. Plus, I mean, half these tracks are 2 or 3 years old. In 1993 when they recorded it, so they were even younger when they wrote those ones. Far out. There are some nice sort of little acoustic bits. I think it's Crimson Towers. What is it? Into Infinite Obscurity and Feathers Fell are like just nice little mellow acoustic bits, but it really gives it a medieval kind of feel to it. I got the feeling they could be, ancient songs from 800 years ago sort of thing. This is just totally different to the Stockholm style that obviously dominates this list, except maybe like Necrophobic and so on, but yeah, while we're at it, seeing I own it, pop up, so stupid, but amazing friggin' album. Number 6 is Carnage with Dark Recollections. This is from 1990. These guys are from Vaho. I don't know if I pronounced that right, probably not, but I think they moved to Stockholm as well with everyone. As you may well know, this is most of Dismember. It was a weird sort of lineup. I think the original Carnage lineup was a couple of other guys and Michael Amott, and then he basically roped in half of Dismember when they split up for a time. Did this one album and then buggered off. He went off to Carcass and then Arch Enemy as well. So, and Dismember Boys reformed Dismember and had a wonderful career. So all in all, a good outcome, but I still would have liked a second album of these guys. This is a batch of Dismember demo songs made it, or like from their real early demos made it on this. And this was actually recorded 6 months before Like an Everflowing Stream. So as per usual, another quality Sunlight Studios Thomas Skogsberg sound, and I love the sound on this. It's freaking awesome. This has got Fred from Dismember on drums, and I think he got a bit better after this. He does a fine job, but it's a bit stilted when you compare it to Like an Everflowing Stream, which is just killer. We'll get to that. This is quite a bit different than their early sort of demos, which, as you may have noticed, I just got this nice little compilation of. Or their early demo, The Day Man Lost, which is a lot grindier, and they then did the Infestation of Evil demo with, I think Fred was in them by that stage, maybe another Dismember dude or two, which is a lot more death metal, so those two songs get redone here and sound bloody awesome. Highlight song for me probably is one of the Dismember demo songs, Blasphemies of the Flesh. It's just got the most killer breakdown bit, rivals anything, any Entombed riff, that's for sure. Infestation of Evil's got another killer Mosh riff bit in it as well, that untouchable. They do actually give tribute to the very first demo, The Day Man Lost. They I think it's Gentle Exhuming has like bits of Day Man Lost and Crimes Against Humanity, or Crimes of Humanity. They kind of combine the riffs into one full song, and sounds bloody nice. These guys only played live 3 times, one of which I think is the 1989 gig you can get on this. So it's worth seeing or hearing, but I'm really glad they do Death Evocation on this as well. It's like a real old Dismember song that I always loved their version of that. I think this is only a recent reissue on Oh yeah, it is on Eurek. Who it was originally put out on a split with Cadaver, Norwegian death metal band that I never really cared for. I think I should give them another go. That first hallucinating anxiety or whatever it is, the split side of this, I don't know. I'll give it another go. Yeah, as I said, it's a real shame they didn't do another album. I think it's Malignant Epitaph is one of the newer songs on here, and shows them going in a damn fine way of improving their songwriting. And honestly, this is probably my favourite of the Swedish Seagrave cover art. It's just beautiful stuff. So yeah, this one, mandatory, that's for sure. Alright, number 5 is General Surgery with Left Hand Pathology. This is from 2006. This is about the as new as you're going to get. These blokes are from Stockholm, as per usual. So yeah, this is, as you may know, originally a project of Afflicted and Dismember guys, just paying tribute to Carcass. I mean, their Necrology EP is freaking legendary, but I like this one more, to tell the truth. After Necrology, they split for bloody ages, reformed in 1999, and after a couple of splits and sort of demo-y ones, released this masterpiece. It's just, the Carcass love's still there in full force, but yeah, Swedeath to the max. Just bit of a grind bent, and just, yeah, that's why this one's the cheating one. It is sort of grindy, but a lot of death metal as well, and yeah, heaps of groove. It's just catchy as buggery. The first song, If These Walls Could Talk, starts with like a ambulance sort of siren, and then just this slide of the guitar, and it's just that friggin' tough ass riff, and then suddenly it's just all go fast as hell. Gurgly vocals, and just the best sort of start-stop section. That's just gold, beautiful stuff. The drumming on this is definitely one of the highlights. It's like Addy from Birdflesh. He's just got such bounce and energy to it. It's beautiful stuff. I think this is another of the albums that benefits from, age and wisdom. It's not, young guys when they're 19 just slapping out something that sounds like Entombed. This is, well, guys when they're like 40 slapping out something that sounds like Carcass, but doing it very smoothly and well. There's great songwriting on here. It's I think it's League of Extraordinary Grave Robbers. Yeah, that's another of my faves. Has a Symphonies of Sickness kind of fiddly guitar bit that I just love. It's beautiful. I actually like that this is kind of like this more than Necroticism almost, which is yeah, and I don't mean that Necrocriticism, the second General Surgery album, I mean the Carcass album. It's just more over the top, just ridiculous. Sadly, I don't think they name their solos. It's the only thing that's lacking on this, I think. Mortuary Wars is another crusher. It's just got this breakdown bit that's just so heavy. Decomposer is just catchy as hell, and they have a nice sort of use of pitch shifters. It's not overly or overdone. It's yeah, just really well done. I'm glad they've got Urban from Regurgitate now in them, because yeah, his work in Regurgitate was amazing, as well as Crematory, the band we discussed before, and he can only help General Surgery get even better. And as you can see on his Putrefaction Sets In project as well, it's great stuff. I will gloat about having seen these guys a couple of times because they are amazing live. It's from an MDF 2007 with Grant, the old singer, and then 2010 with the new singer, whose name I can't remember. And yeah, the 2007 one is an absolute highlight, along with Cock and Ball Torture and Regurgitate. Oh, what a freaking fest that was, bloody hell. So yeah, this is nothing original. It's not super duper Swedish death metal-y sounding, but it still has that sort of chainsaw guitar sound and yeah, it's just beautiful, beautiful death grind. I love it so much. Alright, number 4 is Pandemonium with Chaos. This is from 1993. These blokes are also from Finspång. Unsurprisingly, same town as Edge of Sanity, who would have guessed. I have discussed these guys in length, partly on my Pandemonium retrospective video that I'll put a link to, but also on the my Osmos top 20 albums as well. This may have got in there. But yeah, this is just perfect combination of weird, catchy, and just heavy as hell. Ridiculous. It's predominantly groovy mid-paced death metal, but just so many changes. It's got like saxophone all the way through it and keyboards, and it's insane stuff. It's rivals like Naked City. I mean, it doesn't sound anything like Naked City, but in my mind, for the great weird albums, this and Torture Garden are up there, that's for sure. It's just a never-ending stream of killer riffs as well. Like, I can't understand how it flows so perfectly. I mean, I have listened to it, like hundreds of times, but so I know it very well. But it's not clunky. Like, even though I know this was sort of them just mucking around half of it. I mean, Dawn of Dreams, the album before, is probably a slightly better album. It's slightly less wacky, a bit more sort of gloomy, but yeah, I just love the variety of weirdness on this. Dan's brother Dark, I assume it is, I don't know, but he's a damn fine guitarist, and I think it's in the liner notes for this or one of the other ones. It says, Dan would just tell him, I just do a Blackmore solo here, and he just improvise it on the spot. So guy can play, that's for freaking sure. I think he's in Nightingale with Dan. Yeah, but intense vocals on this, just deep growls most of it, and just crazed screams. No clean stuff on this whatsoever. It's just insanity. Lava, as I said in my previous review, is definitely my favourite song on here, but every song on here rules, really. I mean, there are a few weird experimental ones that aren't the greatest, but they're still fun. I think it's Lomska Forsat. It's even got like hand claps in it with screaming, and it just works. I don't know. I still don't understand how this works so well. There's, I think the last proper song, Silk or something or other, is it's a doomy banger, but it speeds up with some trademark sort of Swano keyboards, and this is one of the few spots where his keyboards work perfectly well. Like, I think they do in Edge of Sanity as well, but some of his like guest work, I don't know, it doesn't quite mesh, I don't think, but here, perfect, love it. And I mean, beautiful non-metal cover art by I think it's Harvey Wallbanger, singer, did that somehow. So yeah, this is, as I said, watch my other videos of this, because I probably ramble just the same length about it, but it's an amazing album. Definitely check it out. Great stuff. Number 3, Dismember, Like an Ever-Flowing Stream. It's from 1991, and of course they're from Stockholm. I didn't own this initially. It took me a while to get it for some unknown reason. I don't know why. Like, would have been available in Australia, no worries, but yeah. There's another Sunlight, Thomas Skogsberg's masterpiece. Honestly, I don't like the guitar sound on this quite as much as sort of, Left Hand Path or Dark Recollections. A bit too much bottom end or something. I don't know, it just doesn't quite grab me. Maddie's vocals on this are great though. Guy can growl well, but it's mostly his sort of throaty, raw, bloke has power, that's for sure. I mean, don't really need to say too much about this. I mean, Override of the Overture, what a song, holy crap. The second half of that is just supreme, that chunky riff and killer solo. And it's kind of weird, like, I think that's the only solo David Blomqvist does on this. For some reason they got Nicky Anderson from Entomb to do all the other solos. I don't know why. He sounds like David did a fine job on this. Oh well, maybe that was his one solo that he knew how to play. I don't know. I'm really glad they have the demo song Dismembered on this, because I love that song. It's just classy, slower sort of melody, and then that bell and a just immediate descent into blast chaos. Out, and also, of course, the Suffer 1,000 Deaths. I mean, every song on here friggin' rules. Soon to Be Dead. What is it? Oh, and So Is Life. It's just got a killer second half. They seem better at their second half of songs than first half for some reason. Sickening Art, I think, also is the same sort of thing. Skinner Alive's it's a charming one. Killer fast banger with their immortal, like, Skinner fucking alive. Charming. That's actually what got them banned in Australia. I got this album, as well as like Pungent Stench being called Buttering, Cannibal Corpse, Tomb the Mutilated, and Autopsy's Acts of the Unspeakable were all banned briefly for being a bit rude, you could say, which is kind of fair enough. They're all pretty gross, but I don't know. Dismember wasn't that bad, but I suppose it does have a song called Skinner Alive. But this is only like 31 minutes long, so I mean, this is a crappy, and you can probably tell from the quality of the cover art. This is a back on black one that it's pixelated to buggery. That looks dreadful. I do have a like original CD of it up in the rack somewhere. So and I was very happy because and I mean this one as well they always bunged on a couple of extra tracks for the CD one. I think Death Evocation, which again is one of my favourite old Dismember songs, and Defective Decay is another ripper. So but yeah, I think the Death Evocation one has cheesy keys on this one that it's but when it kicks in, yeah, nice. Honestly, I always preferred Entombed to these guys. I know I shouldn't compare them so much, but it's impossible not to, really. I think Entombed just had better riffs. And I mean, but don't let that take away from this. This is an amazing friggin' album. And I mean, plus, I think it's, what is it? The bonus track, I think it is Defective Decay, maybe has like classics pitch shifters sort of style of, again, blame Carcass, but yeah, very much like Premature Autopsy, the extra track on Left Hand Path as well, also has pitch shifters. So yeah, I mean, I love later Dismember as well, like, God, what is that? Indecent and Obscene's a friggin' ripper as well. After that, doesn't grab me as much, to tell the truth. I mean, same with Entombed. After about 3 or 4 albums of theirs, it's all a bit, oh well. But yeah, I'm glad I finally got around to getting these. I mean, I have owned the CD for like 25 years or something, but it still took me a while in the whole scheme of things, because yeah, this album friggin' rules. Glad I saw them a couple of times. They're one of the ones that I'm hoping, now that they've reformed, we'll get an Aussie tour again. I mean, they've been here already twice, I think, so not holding my breath, but you never know. Because yeah, they friggin' rule live. So yeah, I don't need to say any more. This is a friggin' amazing album. Number 2 is Grave with You'll Never See. This is their second album from 1992. These guys are from Visby on Gotland, an island off the mainland. This is a genuinely tough choice for me between this album and the first album, Into the Grave, which can't go wrong with either, really, to tell the truth. And I've switched my choice several times. Like, whenever I listen to Into the Grave, I'll put on Extremely Rotten Flesh, and that opening riff just wins it for me. But then I'll put on You'll Never See, and then I'll get to that bit when he goes, You'll Never See Heaven, and yeah, that then wins it for me. So I could go either way, really, to tell the truth. I do kind of slowly prefer the smoother sound of You'll Never See. It's not quite as rusty chainsaw as Into the Grave, but yeah, both are Sunlight Studios, good old Thomas Skogsberg. That man should get like not an Academy Award or a Grammy or something. He should get a prize. He's a legend. And yeah, the highlight for me always is the vocals. Jorgen Sandstrom, he's got one of the best voices out of any death metal band, not just Swedish death metal, anywhere in the world. It's definitely one of my favourites. He's massive raw, so clear and powerful, and just dominates totally. This one does have, I mean, the Into the Grave has a batch of demo tracks. This one still does as well. It's got Brutally Deceased and Morbid Way to Die, both of which friggin' rule when they're redone on this. These guys always seemed heavier than Entombed or Dismember. Just maybe it's the vocals, it's a bit more bottom end, but I think it's just a bit faster and more brutal. Although on You'll Never See, they actually slow a bit. There's a greater use of dynamics on it that really sort of works for me. The title track's just so friggin' tough. The whole, Take My Hand bit, it's just mandatory headbanger. Ridiculous. Any of their mid-pace sections just crushed totally on Obsessed, I think it is. It's just ridiculous. Christ in Sanity is another ripper. It's just got this cool little keyboardy bit on the sort of the fade out end bit. I don't know, it just works really well. I assume it's keyboards. an odd bit that just catchy as buggery. As I said, they're not as classy as Entombed or Carnage or any of those, but it's more brutal and more bludgeoning. That's probably the highlight for me. Plus, I mean, I do kind of prefer this cover art to the Into the Grave one as well. I am a fan of Soulless, their third album. It's a bit different. They've sort of grooved it up a bit more, but still freaking heavy as hell. And his vocals on it, oh, I mean, how could you go wrong with an album that starts with "Bitches Leave," like a sample from RoboCop? One of the great scenes in that. So, yeah, after this, no. I keep trying on hating life or whatever, like, because Jorgen left and Ola took over. And I think he's a fairly decent singer now, but, boy, he wasn't at first, that's for sure. I'm glad to see the early lineup is back together now and playing gigs. Although, for some reason, Jorgen's not singing for him. I don't know, maybe his voice has packed it in over the years, but, I mean, he's been playing in, what's that band of his? Torture Division or whatever they're called. Yeah, so I would have thought he could still do it, but maybe Ola's used to singing it now. It's still his band, I'm guessing, because Jorgen has been in it for years. But yeah, anyway, back to these albums. This it's one of the heaviest of the Swedish Death Metal ones. It's mandatory, that's for sure. And so yeah, my number one choice of Swedish Death Metal album, you guessed it, Soilwork. Nah, of course not. You know what it is. Alright, number one, Entombed, Left Hand Path, 1990. Also from Stockholm, who would have guessed? Yeah, I know it's a cliche, I know it's everyone's, that's the number one Swedish Death Metal, it is. It is. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Clandestine, it's a friggin' ripper as well. The songs are a bit more complex, but yeah, and the drums are crazier as well, but yeah, the wonky vocals don't really sell it for me. Wolverine Blues, I love this bloody album as well. I know there's a lot of haters out there for some weird reason, but it was friggin' ripper. It's death metal as hell. I know it's got some rock and roll in it, but it's friggin' rough as. It's beautiful. At any rate, Left Hand Path, untouchable really. Perfect Sunlight Studios, Skogsberg sound. It doesn't get any better. Again, advantage of well-honed demo songs. I mean, I recommend everyone get Left Hand Path, but this Nihilist compilation as well, there's like a ton of different versions of this. This is what is this, Southern Lord 3-man one. So yeah, this is all the Nihilist demos and Entombed's first one and only demo. That's well worth it as well. So, but yeah, the Left Hand Path, untouchable. This is like no filler, nothing extraneous on it. Always better than Dismember for riffs for my book. I mean, take a song like Morbid Devourment and goes through like killer chug riffs, fast sort of build up, slow crawling doom, and then another mid-paced banger of a riff, and a killer solo. So really, there's enough for 3 songs on just that song alone. Plus, they always had a slightly punkier element to it, which really gave it a bit of extra excitement for me. I don't know, it was just tough as hell. I really love the punchy sort of fast songs like Supposed to Rot and But Life Goes On. Plus, I mean, the title track, you cannot go past that whatsoever. It's a monster. It's got that Phantasm sample at the end and the quality scream, just classy solo, and yeah, that awful film clip which I watched on Rage a lot. Despite the clip being terrible, the song was amazing. It's an incredible song. I think Bitter Loss possibly is my favourite on here. Just that 2-minute breakdown. It's just tough as buckery. So crushing. I mean, one of the highlights and one of the things that they have really going for him is LG's vocals. He just had an exceptional voice. You know, gruff, tough as hell, but not just deep. There was a lot of sort of feeling to it. I don't know, it's hard to describe. He emotes very well. My original CD one, like, this is just a crappy FDR version on Earache. My original CD has like the extra tracks, Carnal Leftovers and Premature Autopsy, the last of which has the classic bodgy pitch shifter vocals. And I will. While talking about Swedish metal and the like, this is a classic old compilation called "Projections of a Stained Mind." This came out on CBR Records, and yeah, it's mostly Swedish death metal. It's got Unleashed, Nirvana 2002, Dismember, House of Usher, who I know nothing about other than this song, Theory and Grotesque. It's also got like a Mayhem song on it with Dead singing, I think. But yeah, my point is the Entomb song on here, Forsaken, it's interesting. I don't think it's on anything else. It's on, the song Forsaken's on the Crawl EP, but it's re-recorded with Orvar from Nirvana 2002. But the one on this has got LG on it, I think. So this might be the only spot that version of the song is. And it sounds friggin' killer. It's an amazing song. But this album's number one for a reason. Everyone loves it, and that's because it's amazing. It's freaking untouchable, despite the super bodgy. God knows what's going on there. It looks like someone's lunch with some teeth or something. I don't know. Obviously, a quick job in the the old studio for that one, but anyway, number one for a damn fine reason, because it's an amazing album, untouchable. Alright, next are some honourable mentions, and after that we'll get to the ones that I didn't choose intentionally. Nirvana 2002, this is a killer band. Only did I think this is like an EP or maybe a couple of demos or something bunged together. Bloody awesome stuff. Just got pipped. Merciless, this is a sort of kind of death thrash kind of band. I always think of them a lot more thrash, so yeah, they're legendary old school ones, but I don't listen to it all that much, and yeah, it's more thrash than death to me. This one very nearly made it into it. This is Death Breath. This is like Nicky Anderson's retro death metal sort of style one. Probably should have been in there, but because this is friggin' catchy, just killer enjoyable stuff. This one very nearly made it in. This is Eucharist. This is like a kind of melodic death metal sort of one that I thought I liked more than I did. I listened to it a couple of times the first time in a while, and I was like, yeah, it's pretty good, but not that great. Excruciate, I really need to spend a bit more time with these guys. Dawn nearly made it in. The Slaughter Sun album's friggin' ripper, but probably a bit more black metal than death metal. I just want to show this off for its ridiculously stupid cover. This is Lubricant. Just making sure they're not Finnish. For some reason I thought they were Finnish, but I think they're Swedish. Let's just double check that. Oh, they're from Finland, sorry, we'll just ignore them. Rune Magic nearly got in there. This is a killer death doom sort of band. A bit more doom, I would have thought, than death, and they have a lot of friggin' albums. Deranged nearly made it in. This is the sort of more brutal end. And I will thank one of my viewers that left a list of his top 15 or what he thinks mine would be, and yeah, I don't think any of them were on there. It was a lot more brutal than what I actually picked. But Deranged, intense friggin' stuff. But yeah, there's a batch of other ones as well, like stuff that I don't actually own, like Demonical. I really need to get more of those guys. I saw them at in New York once at St. Vitus Bar, rest in peace, and it was the best Swedish death metal sounding band I've ever seen live. The sound was just perfect, total steamroller, chainsaw sound. It was lovely. There's a ton of other bands, Bombs of Hades. I really quite enjoy those guys. Opeth's on this list of honourable mentions. I consider them a lot more proggy than actual death metal, but I do quite enjoy them. And yeah, there's bands like Vomitory that I really need to listen to a bit more, I think. So, but yeah, there's, as you gather, there's a lot of Swedish death metal. I've got a couple of Centinex albums that I've never listened to. They're probably pretty reasonable. There's so many bands out there, it's ridiculous. Alright, so this is the list of bands that never quite grabbed me, I've got to say. There's some big names in this one, that's for sure. First up, we'll go with Grotesque. This is like pre At the Gates and pre Liars in Wait sort of band. It's a bit more Black Death. I don't know, it's legendary, it's, all the cool guys like it, but it just doesn't really do much for me. It's sort of like early Samael. It's there, just doesn't blow me away. And leading on to that, one of the more notable Emissions was good old At the Gates. I have a batch of their stuff. I own this and, well, Slaughter of the Soul and a couple of other ones, I think. Yeah, they're getting there. They're slowly working their way in, but it's too noodly. As you can tell, I like the simpler, chunkier stuff a bit more than these guys. Plus his vocals kind of shit me. So yeah, never made it there. Another one that's missing that it's probably questionable whether they're death metal or not. I suppose they are. Meshuggah. This is all I own of Meshuggah. This is like their Contradictions Collapse. This is like their first or second album or something. I had this for years. I don't know if I've even listened to this self-caged single, but yeah, they just don't do it for me. Too disjointed. Didn't like the vocals. Kind of wish I'd seen them live because I think that might have sold me a bit more. Another one that I have plenty of. I don't like much is Tiamat. I don't know. I really do kind of like the song Mountain of Doom on this, but then I remember they've got that song, what's it on? Not the Astral Sleep, the one after the Clouds. The In a Dream. Whenever I think of that bit, it just, gross. So yeah, for some reason Treblinka or Tiamat just never really did it for me. Plus, I mean, there's a batch of other bands that I don't even own stuff of. Arch Enemy was just a bit too melodic, bit too late era Carcass style for me. I'm on a Marth. I don't know. I think I own one of their albums somewhere. It just does nothing for me really. The Crown were pretty legendary, but just a bit too thrash for my liking. And there's more brutal newer bands like Spawn of Possession. Just doesn't do much for me. As part of all this, I hinted at it at the start. I did try and force myself to listen to some of the bands that I've never particularly cared for, including Dark Tranquillity. For some reason, I swear I own the Gallery, although I couldn't find it anywhere in my boxes of mini CDs, so maybe I don't, but yeah, I put on Skydancer and I was like, oh shit, this is pretty good. So, as part of all this, I'm going to force, well maybe not even force, but I'm going to listen to some more melodic Swedish death metal, because yeah, Skydancer was bloody good. I remember hearing it back when it came out, just going, what the hell, this isn't Entombed. Same goes with In Flames. I saw it pretty recently. They played with Creator, so I went along to see Creator and watched a bit of them, and I was like, oh yeah, it's pretty good. As soon as the clean vocals kicked in, it was not so flash, but yeah, I'm gonna give their early stuff a go. So if you have any suggestions for melodic Swedish death metal, feel free to bung them below in the comments. Because yeah, that Dark Tranquillity wasn't too shabby, I gotta say. I don't know, I have no idea what their newer stuff sounds like, probably bloody awful, but I'll give them a go, let's put it that way. And I mean, there are a batch, as I said in the previous one, there's a batch of that I just haven't really listened to much. There's, old school ones like Mega Slaughter, Abhoth. I don't think I even own that one. There's a heap of old demo sort of bands, but newer ones like Tribulation, I really kind of need to listen to their first couple of albums a bit more. After that they go a bit goth metal that I don't like, but those first couple sounded pretty decent. There's like Van Helgd, or however you pronounce their name. Yeah, they just put a new album out. I might have to check them out a little further. There's a batch of sort of in-between ones. Plus, I mean, there's a ton of, just Stockholm sounding, Leak, or however you pronounce their name. Stuff like that, yeah, it's nothing new, but why not? I'll give them a go. So, yeah, the world of Swedish death metal just continues to grow. I'm guessing there's a newer version of this book by now. This is the second press or something from 2009. So, yeah, I would highly recommend this one. I'll plug this in the first video. This is the Swedish death metal book by Daniel Ekeroth. Yeah, legendary tome. Well worth reading. Just so much detail in there. It's beautiful. So, highly recommend that, and highly recommend all the bands that I discussed today. So, yeah, I'm still very keen to see other people's top 30 or top 15, whatever they want to put on there, because, yeah, there's a lot of different styles within the Swedish death metal umbrella. So, But anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you got a bit out of this, and I'll see you again soon. Cheers.